Hello again, welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to our Erebus Tutorial Spotlight series. So, last episode, of course, we talked about a lot of really useful features and little items and things within the Erebus. We're going to pick back up today in this episode, and we're going to talk about a bit more, as well as a few of my personal favorites, like the Smoothie Maker and the Altars. We're going to be talking about those. So, anyways, with that said, let's go ahead and jump into finishing out our Erebus tutorial. Now next up, let's talk about some additional really useful things. First up, we have insect repellent. So this stuff right here, we can take it and we can pretty much spray it. And you're going to notice it actually makes a block. It actually makes kind of a little block effect on top of it and has particles that come off. And any bug that tries to cross over that is going to get tossed around. You're going to notice he got thrown out really quick. If we push him into this, it's going to toss him out. It's going to keep pretty much any kind of bug out of an area using this insect repellent. The only thing about insect repellent is it's not going to totally keep out the mobs in a lot of cases, because they're going to a lot of times do a lunging attack and they're still going to get through. They may hit you and then they'll get thrown somewhere. Can be useful, but just bear in mind it's not like 100% really when it comes to using it. And then flying mobs, of course, can fly over it in a lot of cases. Next up, I want to mention glowing gems. These are just craftable with some bioluminescence, which of course comes from glow worms and things like that whenever you kill them. But you can place this stuff down and you can right click it on and off, and it's just kind of a toggleable light source. Next up, we have bamboo crates. These are basically chests, but when they are broken, they will store their inventory, so you can carry them around with you, and they just require bamboo to craft them. So we're gonna cover a few things that require bamboo that are pretty useful here. Next up, we have bamboo bridges, which can be ran out as bridges, and then of course you can walk through them and make a pretty stylish bridge. Then we have bamboo nerd poles, which can be built up and you can climb these, and of course you could do the nerd pole with them. And if you have your jumping boots, you can really nerd pole up an area. So that's kind of your vertical travel. And then in addition, you do have bamboo ladders which you can make. So that's what they look like, and they work just like standard ladders. Now next up, we have the bamboo extender. This is one of my favorite things ever. It's great, super useful. If you place this down, make note of where the nozzle is at on this. So we want it facing up, so we're gonna stand above it. Just jump up and place it. And if you take and put bamboo into this, we're going to use bamboo nerd poles, and we're going to give this a redstone signal. You can see it's going to build all those bamboo nerd poles, and then of course we can just then climb. Oh, I'm in flight mode here. We can climb up our bamboo nerd pole. So if we want to quickly go or build a way up to climb up, we can do that. And if we remove the redstone signal, it's going to break it all down and deposit that bamboo nerd pole back into here. So super useful. But in addition, if we take and we place it facing in this direction, okay, you're going to notice kind of the start of a bridge right there. If we take it now and put in a bamboo bridge, give it a redstone signal, it's going to build us a bridge out. As many blocks as it has until it hits a solid block. So you can see it came out all the way to here with a stack of bamboo bridges. And then if we want to remove it, release that redstone, it's going to break it all back. There we go. But wait, there's more. If we want it to go downwards, we can do the same thing. Put in your nerd poles, hit it with some redstone, and you can build downwards as well. But you can quickly build and not really waste your ladder or your nerd poles and your bridges, because it's going to put them all right back into the bamboo extender, and you can just pick it all up and go on about your business. And very cheap to craft, and all the bamboo stuff of course just requires bamboo to make it. So can really speed up your travel with that. Now next up we have Planticide. This is kind of the evil twin of Bone Meal. If you take this and you right click on the ground, it's going to break all the grass. Honestly, this probably, you'll be able to notice this a little bit better if we go to a different biome. So let's pop over here. If you take this Planticide, it's going to do a 5x5 area. It does plants, leaves, and crops. You can just destroy all the grass in that area. Tall grass, grass blocks, everything with this Planticide. And this is pretty cheap to craft. Now next up we have the Honey Liquefier. Just a quick mention for this. We talked about nectar a few episodes ago and how to get nectar. Oh yeah, this search is all janky. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your nectar, and there's a few things that you can craft with this, but what you're going to do is you're going to smelt it into honey drips. So go ahead and do that, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take those honey drips and you can place them into the liquefier, apply some redstone to the liquefier, and it's going to start running. It's got a cool little animation that runs here, and you're going to notice liquid honey starts filling up in this. And it will actually visually fill this up with liquid honey, and it's just going to run consistently and make lots of honey. And if you release the redstone, you're going to kind of get this weird effect, and this is kind of, I don't know if it's bug or if it's intended, but I have noticed if you let this sit here for just a moment and then you release it, it will actually run a little bit faster. So it's almost like it builds up power and then we release it, and it seems like it runs a little bit faster. I've had it actually moving really, really fast if you keep this held for very long. And there we go. We've got 3,000 millibuckets of honey from our honey. And of course at this point you could just bucket it out, and be all boring like that. Or you could use the Erebus's bamboo fluid pipes. So what we could do is we can place these in onto our honey liquefier, and we can run this up. We're going to run this over to here, to our fluid jar. And you're going to want a bamboo pipe wrench so that you can rotate this. And we want our honey to go up and into here. And then what we can do is we can hit this. Oh wait, it's facing off in this direction. Don't want that. We want it to go here. We could do that, and it's going to start pumping the honey up into this fluid jar and pulling it from the liquefier. Now you'll notice it's not instantaneous. It did take a second to do that, but it does move fairly quick. As far as the way that you want your pipes to run, you want your nozzle to be basically attached to what you're extracting from. So you'll notice that I can rotate it all over, but I need it to be facing down into the liquefier to pull that honey out. And then you need these little bits kind of pointing in the direction you want it to travel. Now in addition, I want to show you if you have let me grab a honey bucket here. If you have this split, that's okay. You're going to notice that it's going to split this off. It will be able to send honey to this, but it seems like it's prioritizing this one. There's no real way to do necessarily priorities and stuff within this, so it's just going to kind of pick a spot and send it there generally. So you'll notice that as it travels up, which is kind of realistic I guess, as it travels up, it's going to hit this direction first because the honey's coming from here, and so it's going to see that first and it's going to send it over, and then it's going to continue on to this jar. So it kind of looks at that whenever it comes to moving the liquids and stuff. But that is the bamboo pipes. So just make sure you've got the wrench, because you pretty much are going to have it when it comes to setting these up, because when you place them down, it's going to set them up. If I set over here, it's going to place it like that, kind of weird. So you will need the wrench to kind of rotate that and get it set up just right. Now next up we have the Smoothie Matic 2000. This is fairly cheap to craft. You are going to need some smoothie glasses, which are pretty straightforward to craft. And this is basically the Erebus's built-in brewing system. You make smoothies. Now before you get started, I do suggest that you do take a blank book and just right click this, and you're going to get a Smoothie Matic 2000 book, which gives you all of your recipes. So you can tab through this. It's going to tell you need pumpkin seeds, melon seeds, dark fruit seeds, biovelocity, beetle juice to make the seedy goodness. Giving me the blues takes 2 blue bell petals, 2 lapis lazuli, and milk. You're going to see a few different liquids. Some of these take 4 different items and 4 different liquids. If you open up the Smoothie matic, you have 5 slots here and then 4 tanks. These are for your 4 input items and your 4 liquid inputs, and this is going to be for your output. And if you take a look here, if you have the mod, it's called More Tweaker, and it allows for some extended tweaking for Erebus stuff. But in addition, it does give you JEI features for a lot of things that normally do not have JEI support. I went ahead and added it to this pack just for simplicity's sake. It is in Tails because I use it for a lot of things. But for example, the Offering Altar normally doesn't have JEI support. But if you have More Tweaker, it does give it JEI support. The Smoothie matic normally doesn't have JEI support, but with this, you can see that we do have some JEI support for this, as well as being able to add custom recipes and stuff like that, which I have went through and done with Tails. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to put in, we're going to make some anti-venom, just to give you an example, but everything is detailed within that book, all the recipes and stuff are. So for example, if I wanted to make anti-venom, I can take my beetle juice and right click it onto there. It's going to go into one of the tanks. Take our nettle leaves, our poison gland, and our smoothie glass, throw it into there. Oh, my bad. This one takes a glass bottle, but basically just most of them will require, most of your actual like smoothies will require a smoothie glass. But there are a couple exceptions. If you want to make anti-venom buckets, you're going to need a BAM bucket or a regular bucket. And if you want to make anti-venom, you're going to use bottles. But go ahead and just put whatever you're going to use down here. And then it's going to start running, and it's going to make you, you know, whatever you're making with the smoothie maker. It's not the fastest thing in the world, but that's okay. It's free. It doesn't take any kind of fuel or anything like that. To craft your stuff with the Smoothie matic. There we go. We have a bottle of anti-venom. And the nice thing is, if there are any custom recipes added to the Smoothie matic that are not default recipe or are changed from default recipe, then that means that More Tweaker will be in the pack, so it will have JEI support in that case. If there's any alterations to a lot of the basic Erebus recipes, then it will require More Tweaker, so it will add JEI support for things like the Offering Altar or the Smoothie matic. Now next up we have Umber golem statues. These can be found occasionally as like a full completed statue as loot. Not very common, but these can also be crafted. You're going to need a few different pieces here, but these can all be crafted. Can be a little bit expensive, especially the torso, because it requires the altar fragments, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But if you craft these, they make great decorations. They're just kind of like little statues, so it makes some really cool decoration. But in addition, you can right click and animate them, and they'll follow you around, but they will only follow you around if you hold the wand of animation in your hand. If you take it out, he's going to stop following me, so he's just going to kind of do his own thing. If I pull it back out, he'll start to follow me again. There is a short cooldown period, kind of like whenever you have animals like a cow and you have wheat in your hand and you put the wheat away and you pull it back out, they stop following you. The Umber golems will kind of behave the same way. So if I put this up and then pull it back out, he's not going to immediately follow me. He's going to have that kind of short cooldown period, just like an animal will, before he's going to start following me again. He does behave a bit like a cow in that aspect. Now, for example, if we have, let's say, like a lava web spider, let's say, you're going to notice that he's going to start attacking that spider and just beating it to death. He does a bit of damage and does a lot of knockback. Does about 5 damage per hit. Now, he's only going to do that when he's not following me. So if I pull the wand of animation back out, he's going to stop attacking. He's going to try to follow me. So if you want him to do combat, you're going to have to put the wand of animation up and then he's going to attack any hostile mob within his range, right? And the nice thing is you can switch him back into an Umber Golem statue and back into a little guy again. And what's nice is if you want to bypass the cooldown, like I talked about, the animal cooldown, so he's not going to follow me right now, you can just turn him back into a statue and then back into a little animated Umber Golem, and he'll immediately start following you again as long as you have that wand of animation out. So he kind of acts as a bodyguard. You can have the wand of animation in your offhand, and he will follow you with that. But just bear in mind that if you want him to fight, you're going to have to put it away before he'll actually go into combat mode. Now, in addition, there is another really cool thing that you can do with the Umber Golems, and that is you can upgrade these into the mini bosses for the Antlion Overlord dungeons. So what we can do is we can make, say, a spawn Jade Umber Golem, and it's going to straight up spawn the little mini boss. And what you can do is you can make these and kill them off, and they're going to drop the scarab pieces just like as if you had went to the Antlion Overlord and killed it. Now, generally I would say they're more expensive than I would want to, spend just to get a scarab piece to open the dungeon, because each dungeon has the 4 bosses. But in some occasions the mini bosses may get killed or something and you don't have access to them for the scarab pieces. Maybe, I don't know if it's a bug or what it is, but sometimes I've had them die off or not be there. In that situation, you can just make one of those scarabs. If you're dead set on a certain Antlion Overlord dungeon or something like that, you can make one of those mini bosses, spawn it, get the scarab, and then get the Antlion dungeon opened up. But if you want to bypass doing the bosses altogether, you're going to have 4 of these statues, and you're not going to get the statue back whenever you kill the Umber Golem, so it can be a little bit costly. Now, last up, we need to talk about altars, as well as altar fragments. So to make altar bases, you're going to need these altar fragments, just like with the Umber Golem. Altar fragments, you're going to find these, if you recall, in the Antlion Overlord dungeon. I mentioned the small piles of bones. That's where you're going to get altar fragments from. You need to break those bones. You're going to have a pretty good chance of getting an altar fragment. It can take a while to farm up a good supply of altar fragments. You have to go find a fair few dungeons, break those bones, and get those altar fragments. But once you have 8 of them, unless the recipe, of course, is tweaked, you can make yourself an altar base, which just looks like this. Pretty straightforward. Doesn't really do anything on its own, but what you can do is you can infuse this with different effects. These effects are temporary, unfortunately. But for example, if we take bioluminescence, we right click it onto the altar, you're going to see a heart come up, and then we can take the wand of animation and it's going to do that. And we have instant health in this area. Not regeneration, instant health. So it's super healing when you're within range of the altar. And you're going to notice that the altar's range comes out a decent little ways here. About 4 blocks. Covers about a 9x9 area with instant health. Now these do have a very kind of limited amount of time that they're going to run. After a while it is going to shut down the effect and stop working. Now another effect that we can do is the lightning effect. So if we put down an altar, we put a red gem on there, you're going to get this kind of lightning bolt. If we hit it with the wand of animation, it does that. Any arthropods that enter its range are going to get annihilated. So let's bring a spider in. Boom! It gets wrecked. Alright, so it's kind of a defensive tool, if you will, for protecting your base or any kind of a mob spawn or anything like that. But you will notice when it comes to this, you're not really going to get drops from it. Now next up we have the experience one. And this kind of gives you this green hourglass on the altar. And what this altar is going to do is, if we stand on top of it and you take most any Erebus like mob drop item, you take it and you right click it or drop it onto the altar of experience, it's going to turn it into experience. Straight into experience orbs. There's a lot of things that you can use for this. For example, nectar, which is easy to auto farm. You can just take and you can just drop this into the altar of experience, and you can even take, you know, a half stack and turn all that into experience. Full stacks at a time. You could say, I'm getting, oh, it just shut down on me. Let me get another piece of bio velocity here, and we'll reactivate this. So a stack of nectar, which is actually really easy to have this auto farmed, we get basically almost a half a level at level 92, that's a lot of experience, honestly, for something that we can easily auto farm with our with our bees. So a really good way to get an absolute ton of experience. And each of these altars, I should mention, each of these kind of have different shutdown mechanics. This one, if you get so much experience from it, that's when it shuts down. So if it's not doing anything, it can sit here forever, basically, and just hang out. But after you do so much experience from it, it's going to power off, and you're going to need a new bio velocity to activate it. The healing altar here is just time-based. So after it's set here for so long, then it shuts down. You need a new bioluminescence to activate it. Then over here, the lightning one is kind of like the experience one. After it shoots down so many lightning strikes, it's going to shut down, and it's going to need a new red gem to activate. So just kind of bear that in mind. They're not forever, but they are pretty useful. Now the last one we need to talk about is the altar of repair. This one requires an elastic fiber. So the way this one works, let's go ahead and put that on there. We're going to get a hammer effect, and we're going to right click, and it's going to make this. Now this, if we don't do anything with this, it'll sit here forever. But what we can do is we can take pretty much anything that has durability. We can come over near it, right click it down, and you're going to see kind of some little particles and things happening. And what it's going to do, it's going to do that. It's going to revert back, and we're going to have a fully repaired item. Now it's only, you're going to have to use one elastic fiber per item, but it is full repair on pretty much anything that has durability, and it doesn't add like a stacking cost like using an anvil would. There's no experience cost involved, nothing like that. It's just boom, here you go, one elastic fiber and your altar base to fully repair any item. An elastic fiber, not too difficult to farm once again, so pretty useful. Probably one of the most useful altars, I think, but all four of them are extremely useful and extremely powerful as well. Also, a couple really quick little things. Getting papyrus, because it's super straightforward. If you go to the underground jungles, underground jungles and the swamps, you're going to find these right here. These are called bulrushes. If you break these, they're going to drop papyrus, as you can see. So look for that, break that off, and get your papyrus from that. Rolled up newspaper, you can occasionally find this as loot, but also you can craft it with papyrus, whetstone powder, and then any kind of black dye. And you can take this, and it basically does massive damage to mobs. Let's grab a tarantula. Tarantulas have a lot of health, so a really good example. You could say that 3 hits to kill a tarantula, which is actually pretty good. A lot of it is because of the Bane of Arthropods that's on this, but it does have quite a bit of damage to it. Now, as far as fighting zombies or something like that, it's going to be useless, but pretty useful weapon when you're in the Erebus, because it's going to straight up give you that Bane of Arthropods 5. So once you're here long enough to kill some woodlouse and gather up some papyrus, then you can make this, and I do highly suggest it. Doesn't have a ton of durability, as you can see, but you can, of course, add unbreaking or something like that to it. to make it last a bit longer. And you do have the altars of repair, so that's an option as well. So anyways, with that, I am going to wrap up this episode here, and with it, we're going to be wrapping up our Erebus tutorial series. I think we've pretty much covered all. We've kind of touched on everything really within the mod that's not up front, you know, like doors and things like that. There's no real reason to talk too much about those, I don't think. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something. I know Erebus has been out for a long time, but I think there's still a lot of features within the Erebus that are often overlooked, or just, you know, maybe not realized that they're there. And it's stuff that's really not utilized in most packs. Most packs don't have you breeding bays or, you know, doing the honey system or anything like that. So I think it's often overlooked, and there's really a lot of really cool features within the Erebus. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope it was helpful. And with that, we're going to wrap up the Erebus tutorial. If you guys enjoyed it, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already, to stay updated with when new videos come out. And I hope to see you guys next time. So until then, as always, do take care, stay safe. I'll see you guys then.